My cabbage is still coming along pretty nicely. We have onions. This is a large sage plant that came up from South Carolina with me. I just had random flowers planted here. Something I just did recently is plant all of these pepper plants. There is bell pepper along the back and banana pepper up front. I topped 2 of my banana pepper plants just because I'm going to see how I like that doing. And then all of these tomato plants here are an indeterminate variety. And I'm going to put a nice trellis up here for part of that some of the tomatoes can go over one side. And then over here, I'm going to be prepping that for green beans coming over here. I didn't get anything into this section yet, but I do have some more indeterminate tomatoes, some Brad's Arms tomatoes that I'm going to be putting out. These right here were just an early girl, prolific, like Bonnie's tomato plant, so mostly a slicer. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do on this side of the tomatoes yet in this empty section. I'm probably going to do something else that I can run up some stakes. I'm definitely working on height for the garden this year, just to change some of my ways that I am gardening. These 6 tomato plants here are Aroma, and I have some more seedlings that I grew from seed myself, but these were all purchased tomato plants. All of these little seedlings that I've gotten here so far is purchased. The only thing that is not is this little flower vine that I've got growing up here. That's actually a seedling of mine. Bravo for me. All of these pepper plants here are hot peppers, jalapenos. So I've got several down here, and I've got to top a couple of those as well just to see how they bush out. This oregano plant was brought up here from South Carolina. It didn't love the move. It got really hot that day, but I think parts of her are going to be okay. I do have a irrigation hose at the end of this. I've been trying to keep it capped off so that anyway, I had capped it off. It keeps breaking, so I'm going to have to figure out a bottom end of that. But in addition to down here, I've got my strawberry plants. Most of these plants got moved up here from South Carolina, the wilty ones. These 2 were actually potted strawberries that I bought the plants from a big box store up here. And then in these holes that you see here, here, and here, there's actually some asparagus starts. So the asparagus will be underneath the strawberry plants. And then I have a couple of thymes plants here. This was one big plant that I brought up here from South Carolina, and then I separated it. At first it was not doing well. It was pretty unhappy, but now it's, well, you can see where some of it dried out, but now it's green and got some new growth, and it'll be all right. So this entire row is ready for plants or planted. I definitely got to get some things done to stabilize it, but this section right here is still going to be planted. I'm going to put some marigolds in here and some other fun companion plants with these, but this section is pretty much done. Then I move over here to this section, which is going to be some green beans, some squash. I already have butternuts ready to come out, and I'm going to put a trellis archway over here. I've got some zucchinis that I'm going to put in the ground that I want to put them on stakes or tomato cages so that they go tall. And then I already have my cardboard. I've just got to get some more dirt to run a little long ways here. And I do have a plan. We are going to be renting a mulcher to mulch a lot of trees and do some wood chips for the property. So this was an additional bag that I had, so that's the only reason why that looks nice, is because I had actually put the cardboard a little too wide in that section, but that's going to be my pathway, and then I will have another row down through there. Hopefully in the coming weeks I can get that started, but I'm going to shift all of this to continue kind of killing this grass off as I go. I have not been using my energy to try to get this grass down or mowed or anything like that. There's just so many things to do that I pick my battles. And as I add things to the garden or whatnot, then I deal with the grass at that point in time. And eventually this will be a nice garden area, but I'm just using my time and energy wisely. These are just a golden potato that's in here and in here. And I have another bag ready to start more of these once I go get some more potato starts. But yeah, so this way I can, grow these all up in these different containers here, and then I can lay out a tarp, and then I can just dump all the dirt onto the tarp in order to get my potatoes, and I can reuse some of the dirt elsewhere instead of trying to plant the potatoes in the ground. It just wasn't going to be, I wasn't going to have the ground ready to do that this year. So this is my different option that I'm doing for that. My apple trees are getting overtaken by grass, but so far they're doing pretty good. I do have 3 different varieties in 4 trees. I did have to stake this one because it was kind of blowing around and getting loose at the base. So I staked him up. He's much, much happier after I did that. And I'm going to have to do it to this guy. It gets pretty windy up here, just really, really windy. So I'm going to have to do it with this guy as well. And these 2 have been pretty good. Over here, I planted an oak tree that was given to me. I am starting to see a little bit of growth on him. So we've got a long time before he would ever be an issue. So I think that this was a good spot for him. He can eventually lean some shade over to my chickens. I don't know what this is. I figure it's probably something edible. That is not my planting though. This is a blackberry plant that I brought up here from South Carolina. I did propagate this guy, so this is my own plant. Inside of there is a strawberry plant that came up from here from South Carolina. This is going to go down in a hole right here between these 2 trees because I do plan to plant tree, berry bush, kind of along the entire exterior of this area right here. Next, I've got in this area some these are some of the white pine tree seedlings. I planted them along this fence line just so I would kind of know where they were at. I could keep an eye on them if they don't seem to be getting enough water. So far they're there and we're just hanging in there. This looks to be a wild blackberry bush or a blackberry bush from something previous. So I have left it here in the garden, even though it is not mine. This is not a thornless variety like mine is. Actually, it might be. I don't think I see any thorns on that. Anyway, we are going to see what that ends up being. I did not plant that. That was already here. So again, we have some more white pine, and this circles all around the garden. This is a Christmas tree that I planted. It eventually is going to be a Christmas tree. I planted it a little bit later in the season. I think I planted that in February or March. So this is the part of the tree that gets the most sun, gets the hottest amount of sun. And this is a sun scorch essentially that's on there. And it is because the root system did not get enough time to grow deep enough in order to hold on to enough water to combat the heat of the sun on that side of the tree. So it is a sun scorch, which seems like duh, obviously, but the reason that it's there is just because the root system didn't get enough time to establish before the season changed. So he should be doing better next year, and he definitely has a lot of good growth on him. I'm super excited. I have one of these on either side of the front yard, the ones on the way other side that you can't even see. But I thought eventually they'll be really cool to put lights on, solar lights on, because I love Christmas trees. All right, over here, I had planted a fig tree that did not make it. It completely just collapsed, no good, it rotted. So going to plant something else right there eventually. But right here is a mulberry seedling from my Virginia Department of Forestry. So I put that guy right there, and there's a matching one over there kind of on the other side, around there. So that there's two mulberry bushes out here, mulberry trees eventually. This right here, it was a ginkgo tree. I don't think that it made it. I haven't really tested yet. It feels very hollow on the inside. So I'm just not sure that I don't want to break it yet because I just want to give it enough time. It's just getting into the fact that we're not into 30-degree temperatures anymore, so I don't want to take too much from it. This right here, I'm pretty sure, was a hickory seedling from South Carolina, and you can see the freeze got it. I didn't know what it was when I first planted it, but I went ahead and planted it anyway. And when it started leafing out, I was like, I'm pretty sure this is a hickory tree. So then it died back, but there's this other little growth from the base. So we'll see what it does. I put her in there. Here's a Bartlett pear tree. Seems to be okay. It has days where it's a little bit more droopy, and I give it some water and it perks back up. Here is one of my blackberry bushes from South Carolina. Again, I have a huge blackberry bush down there that I propagated, and that's one of, this is a 2-year-old bush here. This one right here died back. This again is also 1.5 or 2-year-old bush, but you can see part of it really died back in the transfer up here. So she's not been too happy. We'll see what it ends up doing. This is another pear tree that you can see the top of it definitely did not do well and died off because of the cold, but we've got some new growth there. So I'm hoping she comes back around. That's the variety there. So I'm hoping it makes it. This is a raspberry. Brought this from a big box store as well. Actually, it was bought for me for my birthday, along with the pear trees. And yeah, so hoping this, I've never done raspberry before, and there's no, this green is all new growth this year because it had some beautiful growth like this whenever I first got it. And then it got real cold one night and it all died. So this is actually all new growth that this green is on here, but I'm hoping to see some flowers. Like, I don't know quite when those bloom. This is another raspberry plant. I actually just bought this from a vendor back home at my farmer's market in South Carolina. So raspberries, you don't need multiple plants for them. They self-pollinate. So it's not important that there was 2 of them, but it never hurts when you have multiples. Here's another mulberry tree that I planted, matching the one on the other side, and this one you can see is definitely leafing out and looks a lot better. I mulched it with just a little bit of straw. This growth is new, probably within the past 2 or 3 days, because it did not look like that when I was planting my tomatoes a few days ago. So this is my messy part of the garden. I have my sitting area so that I can sit out here and think. Again, here's some more white pine. I've got a little peppermint over there that came from South Carolina. This is a brand new blueberry bush that I just bought from one of my vendors in South Carolina and planted it. It's raining on me. Here is some more trees that I planted. Again, I planted some of the seedlings in pots just so that I could keep an eye on them. And these are all mulberry seedlings. So I want them to leaf out. I want them to get a little bit bigger and beautiful. I actually want to give 1 or 2 to my mom. And yeah, so figure out where on the property I actually wanted to plant those. I just didn't want to plant them like this because they're twigs and they may get run over by the skid steer or a mowing element of some sort. The other 4 blueberry bushes that I have here, I've had for a while. They've just stayed potted back in South Carolina because I didn't want to put them in the ground. I knew I wasn't staying there, so I just never did. And now they're finally up here. It has definitely stunted their growth that they were potted like that for so long. This one over here is I just need to pull these weeds that are around them. Not really weeds, but just tall grasses. This one right here it's a big, beautiful plant. It's doing very, very well, minus this whole like arm here is dead. But anyway, it has no little blueberry blossoms on it whatsoever, whereas even the straggly ones have got a little bit on there. Like you can see, this one's pretty straggly, and right there it has just a few little blueberries. So yeah, those are what I've got going on. That, and this is the big thyme plant that I brought up from South Carolina, and I'm trying to again intermix my herbs with my plants, companion planting, to try to keep some of the bugs off the different things. So I'm not looking for those really perfect rows of a different produce. I'm really wanting to kind of intermix things, and over time this will probably be mostly just orchard and berries, but for the next 2 to 3 growing seasons, this will probably be where my garden is and where I'm growing a ton of my food. In addition to this, I'm going to be adding a larger greenhouse, but let's go take a look what's in my greenhouse now. This right here is a beautyberry bush that my dog completely ripped its little twig out of the ground after I had planted it here. And I just planted it back as a twig, and I was like, I hope that she is persevering now. So it looks like this may be part of her as well coming up here. But anyway, so I guard this really well, and hopefully we'll have a beautyberry bush eventually. This entire container got brought up here from South Carolina, so there's actually some oregano in here, and I think that these are maybe some gladiolas that were actually like a spreading of some I had back home. So I have a lot of flowers and things back home that I still want to bring, but there's so many that I also have to get potted up here that are just here. So anyway, and then this is something else that should be flowering as well. I don't remember what I planted in there, but lots of little fun things around the garden. All right, here's my tiny greenhouse. So I had one of these back in South Carolina, and I got rid of it. I gave it away because I thought, I'm getting to the property, I'm going to build a big greenhouse. I have most of the supplies to build that said greenhouse, and priorities, other things that got to get done first. So this is my greenhouse that I've got some things growing in. Here are some plants that I bought at the farmer's market. My farmer's market, don't pay attention to that because that's not like, these were locally grown. I got them in little plugs, and so I put them in a little bit bigger pot. This is supposed to be like a tiny baby pepper plant, so I'm probably going to put it in a pot that'll stay here on the deck. This right here is some holy basil. I've been learning about this to use for like tea and stuff. So I got that guy. He was actually gifted to me from Front Yard Foods to learn a little bit more about it. So I'm going to do that. And I also bought a little cilantro plant because I haven't planted any cilantro myself. This is also like this tiny little strawberry plant. Like, it makes tiny strawberries that are supposedly like candy-like sweet. And also I'm going to be keeping that in like a pot on the deck so that I can keep an eye on it instead of putting it out there in the garden. Here, these are butternut squash, all of these right here. This is great because I put butternut squash in the dog food. So again, this right here helps close my circle of like being more self-sufficient by I use butternut squash all the time in my dog food. It's something I have to buy. If I can have it myself, then I don't have to go buy that. Here is a lot of other things that have not sprouted anything. I'd have to go through what all is down there. Some of them are flowers. Some of them were peppers. Some of them were different kinds of squashes and whatever. I don't even know, because I did write it. Like that was a banana pepper that has not graced its presence, and I planted that like a month ago. So just a lot of things that did not actually germinate. Same with over here. These have been planted a little bit more recently, so I'm still waiting. That's some oregano. This right here is some purple basil, and I planted this in all 6 of these cells. So far, this is the only one that's come up. This right here is, let's see, midget melons. I'm really excited about these, and I have some more of them, but, and that's a zucchini. So excited to get him out, and I'm going to stake him so that he grows tall. Then we also have, I got some broccoli. It's a little late in the season for it, but again, I put it into dog food. So if I can grow a little bit, even a little bit, it closes that loop a little bit for me. So I've got a random box of cactus and succulents that I really need to give my attention to. It's just not a priority right now. So that's what's down there as well. I have this gorgeous petunia that I bought in South Carolina. She's still doing well, even though I've had to bring her in every night. It's going to be below 40. Here's some other guys I just put out in full sun. Here's some more of those midget melons. So they essentially make a cantaloupe, but they're tiny. They're like yay size, just like a little handful there. And they're really, really good. I've had them before. I'm pretty sure those are self-harvested seeds. This right here is... This is some Edisto cantaloupes. These were in a seed swap, so I've never done those before. And this is a watermelon that was also a gifted seed pack, I think, in one of my orders from Rare Seeds, Baker's Creek Seeds. Over here, these I just more recently planted towards the middle of April. These are zucchinis, so I'm really excited to have zucchini. I make a really awesome relish with the zucchini. It makes me so super happy. And then my tomato plants that are here that I planted myself are Brad's Arms, which if you haven't ever had those, they're like a cherry tomato that's purple and yellow and green striped, and they're super sweet. They're really, really fun. They're an indeterminate variety, so they will grow and vine out. I'm going to try to this year make sure that I keep them a little bit more tame. Then over here too, I have some Roma tomatoes. So more Roma tomatoes. I've got some that are out there that are obviously weeks older than these. So I should be able to have 2 batches of those. This here is carrots and radishes. But this soil gets pretty hard packed whenever it's like dry. I don't know. I'm not super happy with that turned out. These are an 18-day radish, and definitely I planted these over a month ago, so they have just not been happy. I'm gonna need a do-over on that. This right here was like also things that I planted. They didn't germinate. This right here was an entire like bag of lettuce that I normally put in there, and these are things I've grown like this back home. And I don't know if it's just it was still too cold around here, but they didn't do anything. So yeah, that's some of the things going on with the gardens and planting around here on the farm. Someplace over in here will eventually be a greenhouse. I'm making a cattle panel greenhouse. I've got the cattle panels along the thing over there. I'm going to either tuck it into the wall there like the embankment and make one side kind of high and the other side not as high, but make a pretty decent size cattle panel greenhouse. I've got 5 different panels, so it'll be fairly good size, and I think it will serve me well for at least a few years. So that's going to be going over there sometime before winter time, not in a rush because there's lots of other priorities for building projects going around here first. So I appreciate you taking this time to walk through my gardens and my greenhouse with me, trying to keep an update for myself as well, to see how far I come along, because sometimes, you know, it can feel discouraging and a little overwhelming, but lots of big plans, and I think that between my last video and this video, I'm pretty happy with the progression that's been made.